Hello there guys, welcome back to ShootOut, welcome back to a brand new video. Myself and George are here and it looks like once again order has been restored in some sort of capacity at least. Maybe not quite like how it used to be, but to an extent, because we are here after an FA Cup weekend. Chelsea have won their game and Arsenal haven't. So we're going to dissect this and we're going to go into what went down last night. Liverpool knocking Arsenal out of the FA Cup at the Emirates 2-0. And they didn't have Mo Salah or Van Dijk, did they, George? How are you doing and your thoughts, mate?
Mate, they didn't, and I think it's lovely to know that the power is all in Chelsea's hands once again. As long as we can just stop being rubbish, then the whole question about the colour of London is no longer a question. It is a definitive answer, but that means Chelsea have actually got to be good again. But Arsenal are in the mud.
Exactly.
I'm going to say it now. I genuinely don't want this to come across as like you're just revelling in another Arsenal defeat. I genuinely think the wheels are off. We've discussed this on the channel before, but I do think that this game in particular, this effort, it's a bigger game than you'd think. Arsenal are going to have their sights set on winning the Premier League. They probably believe they could win the Champions League too. But I think what we saw was men against boys. We saw a team that are playing with just full confidence, and they've had Europa League to deal with. And you're playing against an Arsenal team that are just seemingly void, and particularly in front of goal. It's all gone, mate. And I genuinely think this is it. I think Arteta, as you said it in the last video that we did together about this topic, Arteta has taken them as far as he could. And I think now they're in a bit of a troublesome moment.
I completely agree, and I don't want this to come across as let's all laugh at Arsenal and whatnot. No, but it's pretty obvious now. I think it's clear because this is another season that Arsenal are going to go trophyless, right? And if you're not progressing, then what are you doing? And right now, it looks like that they are going to come off worse than last season. Last season, they did have that last little surge in order to get themselves into the title race, and people were actually having the conversation of, oh my God, are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? And then they threw it away. And you could argue why, but there was an expectation coming into this season, few signings here and there, which I'd like to think they did. Those were good signings, and they would get better, but they haven't. And it looks like that now, out of the Carabao Cup, we've already seen that. Out of the FA Cup, very early on. Champions League, let's be honest, it would take a flipping Leicester-sized miracle for them to win the Champions League. That's not going to happen. And the Premier League, I think, is pretty obvious. Man City and more so Liverpool are probably going to run away with it. So, what do they have left? And yesterday was a case of, I think, two tells. Let me know if you agree or you disagree here, mate. They couldn't hit a barn door, right? So they're in need of someone that can actually, put the ball in the net. And at the same time, whilst that was not going their way, they didn't have any way to influence the game from the bench or from Arteta's side, whereas Liverpool, by bringing two kids on, still somehow managed to change the game. So Jurgen Klopp's looking fantastic and Arteta's looking a little silly.
Mate, I heard a phrase this week, a quote that had nothing to do with football, but I think it epitomises the difference between both Arsenal and Liverpool right now perfectly. The quote is, it's an equation, happiness equals reality minus expectations. Right now, the reality at Arsenal, which is why they seem so unhappy and everything just seems void of having that quality that they did ooze at times this season and last. But the reality is, because they've been competing for the Premier League last year, they already thought they were there. Therefore, the expectation was so high. And then all of a sudden, the moment the wheels start to come off, the levels just drop and everyone is disappointed and everyone's looking around like Arteta is the Messiah. Now he's not. Whereas at Liverpool, their happiness levels last season were bad. They were low, but Klopp got them. And in the second half, towards the end of the final third of that season, they were brilliant. This year, the reality of the situation is, right, they're looking around. the Premier League could be up for grabs. Can City keep going after winning a treble? So their reality and their expectations have been absolutely aligned, and that is why both of these teams are heading in opposite directions. Liverpool don't need Mo Salah. They don't need Virgil van Dijk, because right now they've got a squad and a group of players working under an unbelievable manager, sending them back up in the right directions in every competition they're playing in. Whereas Arsenal have panicked. They've had a couple of bad results, and as a result of that, they don't know where they're at anymore. They thought they should be winning the league this year. They thought it was finally going to be over. But the reality of the situation is, everybody on that pitch is kind of looking around, looking for someone to do something. And the players that you'd expect to do something have stopped doing it. And I think that is why Arteta is absolutely flumped. Like the Haribo marshmallow itself. Like, he's done.
You're completely right. And look, I want to ask, what would you put it down to in terms of on the pitch yesterday? There were players yesterday for Arsenal that were just, not just off. They didn't show up. If I'm being honest, or completely out of sorts. When you're looking at players Kai Havertz playing centre forward, I think is a big issue that I think was more so a risk to go with yesterday that has kind of backfired in Arteta's face, because Eddie Nketiah is there as, you can say, the backup striker to go to if their main man's not there, if Jesus is not on the pitch or whatever. But they've not gone to that. They've gone to Havertz, who at the beginning of the season, Arteta did say, I know where to play Havertz. I know what position he's going to be in. And then there was the whole thing about him being a left-sided central midfielder, which, to be honest, if he is going to play somewhere, I think that's probably the best place. But he gets put centre forward. And then we see what happens yesterday. And then alongside him, you've got players like Saka, who's just he looked like he hadn't played a minute of senior football yesterday. So it's just quite shocking. What would you put it down to in terms of the players on the pitch yesterday and what went wrong?
I'm going to put a couple of shouts in here. Right now, if Gareth Southgate picks Bukayo Saka on the right over Cole Palmer, then he's an even bigger fool than I already think he might be. Second of all, you've got Jorginho playing in a midfield three, which has just never worked, and Kai Havertz playing through the middle, which doesn't work. It just, to me, shows a bit of naivety here. Arteta, I think, is a really good manager. But, these are two players that couldn't do it at Chelsea, and that was in a season where you were supposed to be challenging for a Premier League. So these guys come in this season, and in a game against Liverpool, in a trophy that you should be looking to win, you've got Jorginho alongside Rice and Odegaard, but, come on. Something don't quite work there. Jorginho's never been great in a midfield three. What you're doing him now as he's older. And Kai Havertz playing through the middle. There were times in that first half where Kai Havertz is literally in on goal, and he decides to pass it. This guy ain't a centre forward, bro. What are you playing at? Did you not see?
Yep.
It was bad enough, in my opinion, to see them spend that much. Well, I say bad enough. I think Chelsea did well to get that money. I don't think Kai Havertz is worth what Arsenal bought him for. Point number one. Then you just start to see him he's doing a bit. He's scoring a couple of big goals, whatever. And then in a match against Liverpool, you play him through the middle and you try and say, he's your focal point in the team. When you've got someone like Eddie Nketiah on the bench, even Trossard is a better option if you want to go with a false nine centre-forward than Kai Havertz. It's ludicrous. And I think it's got to a point where, if I bring it back to that equation earlier, Arteta and Arsenal are so unhappy right now that they're trying to do drastic things to come up with solutions. And I think they're getting that. I think as a result of that, they're getting it all wrong. I really, really do. I think they're out the FA Cup. They're not going to win the Carabao Cup because they're not bloody in it. And this kind of form, I don't know who they've got in the next round of the Champions League, but they will get beat.
Porto.
Porto, banana skin,
Porto.
Mate. That is a banana skin on an ice rink. Do you know what I mean? That's the last thing you want to see when you're skating towards a disaster. A banana skin. This ain't Mario Kart either. This is bad. But we got to give credit to Liverpool, I think, as well.
Yep, absolutely. I wanted to brush on Liverpool a little bit as well because they started the game off, I would say, fairly slow. But I do want to say it's probably 50% slow, 50% intentional to sit behind the ball and try and exploit some space. I think there is an element of trying to catch Arsenal out there. And Arsenal did not capitalise. This is the problem. They didn't capitalise in that first half. They didn't capitalise on some of the chances they did. Albeit Liverpool had chances too, but Arsenal had, I would say, ones that, you know, if you had a proper forward line, you're probably burying them. And Liverpool in that first half managed to contain. They came out of that first half 0-0, unscathed. But the second half, it all changed. They started to make themselves a little bit more bold. They started to attack a little bit more lethally. They started to get in behind a little bit more frequently. And then, look, it all changed for me when those substitutions were made. And he brought on Bradley and he brought on Clark, right? 2 young lads. And I'm thinking, look, if this works, Klopp's a genius. And it worked. Your thoughts on that? Klopp. Yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I think that this is where you can't really put a ceiling on the praise for Jurgen Klopp, because at the beginning of this season there was big debates about the players they brought in. Your McAllister's, Szoboszlai's injured at the minute, but it's like he had to revamp an entire midfield. Chelsea have tried to do the same thing, didn't quite work and click as quickly as Liverpool have. Whether that's because of the quality of players or not, total debate for a different video. But like he had to do that. And then, like you say, the changes that he makes to beat Arsenal away is to bring on 2 young midfielders. So not only have you revamped the starting 11 for your midfield for the season, but you've also somehow managed to teach all these young kids, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and you're going to do it whether it is against flipping Chesterfield at home in the FA Cup or Arsenal away. And lo and behold, all of these players know exactly what Klopp wants from them, and he's delivering over and over again.
You know what? I think this is a key point. I've not mentioned this, but I do want to emphasize on the importance of what a system can do. You know, Klopp shifted it about, even with a couple of kids, but managed to alter the entire system. And that caught Arsenal out. Arsenal didn't have that capability. And you could argue on the flip side that compared to last season, Arteta has tinkered a little too much. And as you said a little earlier in the video, is trying too hard and too desperately to find something a bit too drastic, right? And Klopp with Liverpool, that's not the case. He knows exactly what needs to be done. He knows exactly how his team are playing. He knows exactly what needs to be adjusted. And at moments in games, especially in the latter stages where they need to get something out of the game, little tweaks here and there, knows exactly what output he's going to get, and boom. All of a sudden, 1 goal flies in. It's an own goal, albeit, but 1 goal flies in, and then he wraps up the game with a massive goal at the end of Luis Diaz. Unbelievable. But it's not so unbelievable, if you know what I mean. This is the difference between an elite manager and someone who I do think, and you've said the same, has hit his ceiling. You know, Arteta probably had more impact last season, where it looked like they were still on an upward trajectory and still trying to achieve something that maybe people didn't expect. But now they've tinkered, now they've changed a little too much. It's gotten worse. So Arteta, look, what do Arsenal need to do now, do you think? I mean, is the season over for them? And what do they need to do going forward?
I don't want it to sound drastic, but I think, I don't think it's over, because there's still a lot to fight for. You know, they're still in the 2 biggest competitions. They can still turn it around. But I do think, in hindsight, I mean, I'm not going to say I told you so, but like, I kind of have said all season that Arsenal haven't been very good. They've not been anywhere near the heights of last season, performance-wise, and to the naked eye. So I have seen this coming. And I think that is why I talk about the happiness equation, because actually I think that that's the biggest issue at Arsenal. They kind of feel as though, once again, they should be winning every single game. So when 1 or 2 losses goes in, it's not just the fans that lose it, but I think the players they've kind of oversold themselves to themselves, in a way. And I think sometimes you've got to stop looking at like, right, progress. And when things start going wrong, you go back to the things that you do well. You don't keep trying to change everything and fit little pieces into the jigsaw that evidently don't fit. It's like, I think that's what they've done. And I think when you look at that Arsenal lineup yesterday, and you've got players like Emil Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, Nketiah, Trossard. I'm looking at their bench now. All the players that Arteta brought on, like, Liverpool love this. Liverpool love going away from home, settling into a game, and then with all of that quality late on, they control it and they dominate. And it was kind of the same at Anfield too, when the game was kind of ebbing and flowing in the league, and then Liverpool had that one massive chance that Trent hit the bar from. Trent hit the bar again yesterday. It could have been a cricket score. Jota hit the bar. Like, there's so much. And Arsenal were the second best team throughout the whole thing. So well done, Liverpool, I think, is the final point I want to make before it seems like I'm digging a grave for Arsenal too much. But, like, Liverpool, Klopp, well done. Like, you really are a great team and you're a fantastic manager. That's me out.
Absolutely. And look, like I said earlier at the start, this was without Salah. This was without Van Dijk. I think if Salah was there, this game would have probably been wrapped up a little earlier, if I'm being real. But credit to Liverpool, absolutely. And they march on to the fourth round of the FA Cup. Arsenal are out. It's 1 win out of 7. It's not looking great. Yes, they're currently 4th in the Premier League, 1 point ahead of Spurs and 5 behind Liverpool. Still a level on points with City, but City have a game in hand. And this is where you just have the inkling that City are probably going to go on a run of form. KDB's back. Liverpool are going to keep doing what they're doing. And Arsenal are going to have to chase. And right now, it's not looking good. They've got to play Liverpool after the little break that we are going to have in the Premier League now, because Arsenal are flying off to Dubai. And wherever other teams are going to fly off to and have maybe warm weather training, in the meantime, they're going to do that. So we'll see what happens when the football resumes properly. But any final thoughts that you want to mention before we call this a day?
My final thoughts are, if you're not yet subscribed to this YouTube channel, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you do enjoy the content that you see. That is the final thoughts, Eunice. We're here. It's 2024.
Brilliant.
We're here to take over. We're not here for a good time. We're here for a great time and a long time. So stay tuned.
100%. Take that advice from George right now. Thank you very much for watching, people. Hit that subscribe button and we will see you on the next one. Have a good one. Take care and peace.